Not only is the project not close to being finished, it hasn't even broken ground yet. Instead of putting the finishing touches on the project right now like they originally anticipated, this lot here is still sitting empty, waiting for any kind of progress. So I asked the mayor's office, what's the holdup? An empty lot and a fenced-off building. What's now an eyesore is on deck to be a new permanent supportive housing building for 100+ families. But 2 years after the project was announced, and it hasn't even gotten started.
The project has stalled. We don't know where it is.
Kay Bowers is part of the Affordable Housing Task Force with the nonprofit NOAA. She says the affordable housing crisis has only worsened since the mayor shared his plans for this space in 2019, thanks in part to the pandemic, the March 2020 tornado, and the March 2021 flooding.
It just exacerbates the problem.
I reached out to the mayor's office to find out what's going on. A spokesperson tells me the project was redesigned to make it more of a community. The new design includes more and better units for the same budget. But Councilmember Freddie O'Connell, who oversees this district, tells me he doesn't understand why a design adjustment would result in a 2-year delay. He and other affordable housing advocates are calling on the city to create a city department dedicated to homelessness and affordable housing to help oversee projects just like this.
That's what an Office of Housing and Homelessness could do. There would be continuity across multiple administrations. This is a crisis and it needs a crisis response.
The mayor's office says the new and improved housing project will begin construction in summer 2022, 6 months after it was originally slated to open. The mayor's office says his new capital spending plan includes funding for a new riverfront park to serve the downtown community. That will help them serve the chronically unhoused and vulnerable populations who stay in that area.
Carolyn Young says she's been cooking up for her community for more than 18 years and never had a problem. But now she's being faced with the possibility of needing a permit to serve in this city parking lot each night at 5.
Why do I need a permit to feed homeless people for free? They can keep trying to petition to stop us from feeding. But where there's a will, there's a way, and I put it in God's hand.
The ordinance comes from city leaders who say they've received complaints about homeless people downtown. Sandy Wright with the Murfreesboro Faith Project agrees.
This is also a city parking lot meant for the residents of Murfreesboro to park in, and they can't park here anymore. A lot of them are afraid to park here.
The permit process would require food safety classes and paying a small fee to qualify. City Hall parking lots, the Civic Plaza, and Public Library are excluded from permit eligibility.
We're not the problem. We're a solution.
Earlier this week, Mayor Shane McFarland weighed in on the proposed restrictions.
The Civic Plaza is not intended to be able to be a feeding site. Now, there are other areas that we've worked through to be able to define that you can do that.
The Murfreesboro Police Department confirmed they've received an increase in calls for service involving the homeless over the past 3 years. But it's citywide, not just on city-owned property.
There's never been any drugs or drug paraphernalia out here while I've been here. And I'm the last one to leave, and I make sure the lot is clean.
Tonight, Fox 17 News reached out to Mayor McFarland for his response to the police department's citywide crime statistics. He replied via email, writing in part, "No one is being targeted or singled out. We have a responsibility to not only help the underserved, but also to make sure we provide a safe environment for the community."
Right off I-65 North and Rosa Parks Boulevard exit is once again home to the homeless. Back in October, the Tennessee Department of Transportation took action to remove items here out of concern for the homeless and workers. This is just one spot in Nashville where a solution is needed. Paula Foster with Open Table Nashville says because of the temperatures, this time of year is especially heartbreaking for the most vulnerable.
It's the people who are not living in encampments, but are under the bridges or under the overpasses or under, in a doorway.
We emailed and called TDOT to see what actions they are taking moving forward to ensure this right-of-way remains cleaned up. In a response, TDOT says they monitor locations like this and post no trespassing signs, adding that they spoke with the people living at this spot during last month's cleanup. While TDOT says it continues to work with Metro Social Services, nonprofits like Open Table remain focused on the here and the now across Music City.
We know that there are people living in the encampments. We have been able to supply folks with some, buddy heaters and, propane canisters in order to try to stay warm, because there's a lot of folks who they won't go to the shelters for a variety of reasons.
Still, no clear answer on if and when this spot will see another change like it did in October.
Michaela's family tells me she was always laughing and smiling, but tonight her cousin feels the system failed Michaela since these TBI records show Leggett had an extensive criminal record.
She just was a light to everybody. In every room that she went in, she was always a light.
Michaela Carter and her cousin Janicia Bell grew up together and were extremely close. Janicia says Michaela and James Leggett were together for around 10 years.
But I never knew the extent of it until a year ago when she reached out to me wanting to come live with me because she was trying to get away from him. And even then, she just confided in me about some things, and I just was shocked because I knew he wasn't good for her, but I didn't know he treated her that badly.
Metro Police say Leggett shot Michaela in the chest and leg. A week later, she died from her injuries. Michaela had a protective order against Leggett.
I was just distraught. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. She's my baby cousin. She has so much life to live.
But back in July, TBI records show Leggett had been charged with assault, domestic bodily injury, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Those records show he has an extensive criminal background.
How did he manage to get back out of jail? If you go look at this man's record, he has over 20-something charges.
I asked the district attorney's office why Leggett was allowed to be walking the streets. A spokesperson says Leggett was held in custody for a probation violation from the summer up until a week before the attack. The DA's office says the victim was also not willing to testify, something victim rights advocates say is common.
We just need to be wiser as a system of how we handle order protections and how we are going to truly protect the victims, as well as provide some intervention for the individual who is causing this mayhem.
If you find yourself in an abusive relationship, leaders at Tennessee Voices for Victims suggest reaching out to the Family Safety Center. You can also call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. We have that number up on our website at fox17.com.